Welcome to MyShliach Story Hour Chassidim series.
So, Reb Hillel Paritcher got the name Reb Hillel Paritcher, even though that wasn't his last name, but he got that name because he was the Rav in the city of Paritch. And we spoke a few episodes ago how the city of Bobroisk wanted him to become the Rav, and the Mittler Rebbe actually advised him to become the Rav of the city of Bobroisk, but it didn't happen right away. And for many, many years, I think about 40 years or so, maybe even more, Reb Hillel remained the Rav of the city of Paritch. Eventually, after moving to the city of Bobroisk to become the Rav over there, the deal was that he would go back 1 month a year to his old city and farbring with the Yidden, the Chassidim, and spend a month with them in the city of Paritch. Well, you can imagine that when it was official that Reb Hillel was coming to the city of Bobroisk, the people there were over the moon. They were so thrilled and excited and happy and joyful. And what does a chassid do when they're happy and they're excited? They farbring. And so, as soon as Reb Hillel moved into the city of Bobroisk to replace their old Rav, they were so delighted that they farbringed continuously for 3 days straight in the Reb Hillel's house. Imagine farbringing for a couple of hours straight, or all night long, or maybe a whole day. I don't know, Yutes and Chav Kislev, but for 3 days straight, that's a pretty intense farbringing. And what do Chassidim do by a farbringing? They sing, and they say Divrei Torah, and they mechazik one another, and they chazer over Torah from the Rebbe, and the Nugunim are loud and passionate. And sometimes the Nugunim can get so loud and so late at night that the neighbors, if they're not accustomed to having a farbrengen next door, could sometimes not be so excited by the loud noises that's going on next door. And if the farbrengen is happening, for 1 night, so the neighbor could turn a blind eye. Okay, 1 night you made a farbrengen, 2 nights, fine. But for 3 nights, it already starts getting annoying. People need to go to sleep. And the noise from the singing and the dancing and the clapping on the table is giving them a headache, and they're not able to sleep. And this city of Bobroisk was no different. Although many of the people were so excited that Reb Hillel had come to town to lead them and to be their Rav, many of the people were Chassidim and were happy to welcome their Rav and to farbring with him as much as possible. By the time the 3rd night of farbringing rolled around, one of the neighbors had enough. Now this neighbor was no simple man. He was a doctor. And the doctor said to himself, how much of this can I handle? 1 night no sleep, 2 nights no sleep. I got to get my rest because I got to be able to go to work in the morning and take care of my patients. And if I'm going to have this clapping in cup a whole night by the farbrengens, I'm not going to be able to work properly. So he decides on the 3rd night that he's going to get into bed a little bit earlier. So even if it takes him a little bit of time to fall asleep, he'll be able to sleep the whole night and sleep comfortably and get enough sleep in order to be able to work properly the next day. Now, Kinderlach, I don't know what the doctor's practice was before he went to sleep, but something tells me that as he was winding down for the evening, Yeshivas Erev was not one of his priorities on his list. What's Yeshivas Erev? Well, you may remember from a few episodes ago we introduced the MyShliach Yeshivas Erev program. And to date, there are currently over 250 boys, shluchim, that are participating in this MyShliach Yeshivas Erev program. It's an opportunity to learn at night, to learn extracurricular mishnayos, to make new friends. You'll come to the kinnos and you'll be able to meet friends not only from online school, not only from camp, but your friends that are your friends because you bonded over Limudat Torah during Yeshivas Erev. After hours, extracurricular Limudat Torah. Not only is it good for your neshama to clock in a few hours of learning Torah at night, some extra mishnayos, some extra learning with your chavrusa, but also you get to accumulate points and dollars on your MyShliach account. This is a golden opportunity, which I advise every single one of you from grades 4 through 8, that's Kita Dalit through Kita Ches. So talk to your parents if you're not signed up already, And if you are signed up, keep it up, encourage a friend, tell another shliach, another friend of yours to get involved and join the wagon of this Yeshivas Erev program. But this doctor, I don't think his nights before he went to bed were occupied with Limud Torah. Either because he wasn't a member of MyShliach and knew about the MyShliach Yeshivas Erev program, or because, for whatever reason, it wasn't his priority. So he puts his earplugs in his ears, and he puts on his beautiful, comfortable pajamas. I don't know if he had fire trucks on them, or pictures of stethoscopes that a doctor, whatever doctor-themed pajamas or ambulances. But the doctor put on his pajamas and he went into bed. He said, Kriya Shema, hopefully you brought Megalwasser. And he went to bed for the night. And as the hours go by, the Farbrengen next door in the house of Reb Hillel Paritcher is getting more and more intense and more lebedik and more lively. And the Chassidim are saying L'chaim, and they're dancing on the tables and on the chairs, and the whole place is shaking. You can imagine, for those of you that have been in overnight camp, what a Friday night in camp looks like. The singing, the jumping on the benches and on the tables, the place is on fire. The place is rocking. Imagine if I bring you with the great Chosid Reb Hillel Paritcher. 3 days, the city just got a new Rav. It's unbelievable. Finally, after tossing and turning, the doctor said, I have enough. I had enough of this. I'm going to go next door and I'm going to put an end to this Farbrengen. And so he gets out of bed in his pajamas and he makes his way over next door to the house of Reb Hillel Paritcher, and he doesn't even bother knocking on the door. The door is probably already open because Chassidim were coming and going all day and all night. And he sees the dancing and the singing. And he starts to scream. Stop it. Stop the singing. Stop the dancing. This is so annoying. I'm already so annoyed. I can't sleep already for 3 nights. Enough. How much Farbrengen do you guys have to do? Stop it. And he's screaming. But Reb Hillel Paritcher doesn't stop dancing. As a matter of fact, the Chassidim are still singing and dancing. And this doctor is yelling. But anybody listen to me? Does anybody hear me? Could you please let people go to sleep in this town? How many Farbrengens do you need to have? There are 2 versions to the story what happened. One version to the story is that Reb Hillel continued singing and dancing around the room for a few minutes. And then Reb Hillel said, if someone has no room for another person and the place of the living is too crowded for him, then he can leave. Right? If there's too many people in this house, there's too much going on, then it's not for you. And the doctor understood what Reb Hillel was saying. He understood the hint. The dire consequences, the big danger he was putting himself in, the Chas v'Shalom stopped the Farbrengen. So the doctor left and he stopped complaining. Right? Reb Hillel said, if the Lebedikite is not for you, so maybe this is not your inyan. Another version of the story is that everybody by the Farbrengen was so inspired by Reb Hillel's continued simcha and Lebedikite and dancing and his infectious zest for life. He was such a happy person and just kept dancing and didn't pay attention and wasn't getting tzikratz or annoyed by the fact that the doctor was yelling and all upset, that they kept on dancing too. And eventually, the doctor was also taken aback by the energy that vibrated from Reb Hillel, that this doctor who came to yell at Reb Hillel and the Chassidim to stop the Farbrengen, guess what? He joined the dancing as well. He joined the Farbrengen. And not only that, he didn't even go home to change and put on normal clothes. He was sitting by the Farbrengen with his pajamas, with his teddy bears, with his fire trucks, whatever he had on his pajamas. And he was sitting by the table by the Farbrengen. He came to yell to stop the Farbrengen. But instead, he was taken in by the warmth and the love and the chayas and the lebedikite of the Farbrengen, that he joined the Farbrengen and Reb Hillel wearing his pajamas. Now, Reb Hillel served as a Rav, and one of the jobs of a Rav is sometimes 2 people have a Lachluchis, and they have a disagreement on something, and the way to resolve their differences, to come to an agreement, kindalach, is to have a din Torah. You go to a bezdin, you go to the Rav hears out both sides, and the Rav determines what the psak halach should be, what the Shulchan Aruch says you should do in this and this situation. Now, Reb Hillel one time ruled on a case in which the guilty party, whoever Reb Hillel said was guilty between these two people, they refused to listen to the decision that Reb Hillel said and pay the other person. So let's say Chaim owed Shmetel money. And Shmetel said, give me the money. And Chaim said, no, I don't owe you the money for whatever reason. Either I paid you or the product that you gave me was not a good item and therefore I don't really owe you the money. Whatever it was. So because they had an argument whether Chaim needs to pay Shmetel or not, they went to Adin Torah and Reb Hillel Paskin said, Chaim, you need to pay Shmetel the money. But Chaim said, no way. I don't care what Reb Hillel says. I'm not going to pay the money. And for a long time, Shmetel tried to collect the money that he was owed according to the Psak Din, but Chaim refused to give it to him. Eventually, he realized that Chaim had no intention of listening to what Reb Hillel had to say. And so, Shmetel returned to Reb Hillel to tell him the situation and said, Rebbe, what should I do? I'm trying to collect the money that Chaim owes me. But every time I come to him, he tells me, I'm not listening to Reb Hillel. I think Reb Hillel is wrong. Or he doesn't even open the door for me or return my letters. What should I do, Rebbe? I really need the money. And I thought that maybe once the Rav Paskins, he's going to listen right away. Rebbe, please help me. Give me some advice. What are we going to do here? Reb Hillel immediately wrote a letter instructing Chaim, I don't know if that was his name, but that's what we're going to call him, to right away listen to the Psak Din right away, without delay, and pay Shmetel whatever he was owed. Shmetel took the letter from Reb Hillel Paritcher and quickly ran to the house of Chaim to deliver the letter personally, hoping that perhaps if Chaim sees that Reb Hillel, the Rav of the town, took the time to write a letter, maybe it's going to change his mind. But Kindalach, to Shmetel's horror, Chaim refused to read the letter. He didn't even open the envelope. Instead, he took the letter and he threw it to the ground.
Do you think I am going to listen to the Rav because you wrote it in a letter?
Please, he's the Rav of our town.
I don't care. I think the Rav is mistaken. He can be a big Talmud Chacham, but he doesn't know everything.
How can you say that about the Rav?
Listen here. I'm not going to waste my time opening this letter. Here, take it, or I'll throw it on the floor. Never mind. I'll throw it on the floor, and you can pick it up and put it in the garbage, or put it in Seamus if you think this Rav is so special.
How can you do that?
I will never abide. I will never listen to that decision.
Shmetel had no choice, and he ran back to Reb Hillel to tell Reb Hillel that his letter was thrown onto the ground. Reb Hillel heard what Shmetel had to say, and then realized that the Beis Din's authority would be compromised if such behavior went unchanged. The Beis Din made a Psak Din. The Beis Din ruled on something, and this guy just thinks he knows better than the Rav and is not going to listen. So Reb Hillel said, his hands will always be throwing things. He threw this letter from the Beis Din on the floor, his hands will always be throwing things. Kindalach, so it was. For the next 13 years, until this man, Chaim, passed away, his hands were constantly shaking, and he was unable to hold anything. And this was as a result of him not listening to the Rav, thinking that he knows better, and throwing the Rav's paper on the floor. Reb Hillel did this not just to defend his own kavod. Reb Hillel wasn't there looking to be respected for himself as an individual. No way. But Reb Hillel realized that people need to understand that when a Rav paskins something, regardless of who the Rav is, when a Beis Din makes a Psak Din, it must be listened to. And if somebody could come along and say, oh, I don't care what this Rav says, I know better, that's going to lead to other people not listening to the Rav. And then the whole structure of the Beis Din falls apart. Remember, we said that Reb Hillel was half Chassid, half Rebbe. Generally, these types of stories are something that we hear when people don't listen to a Rebbe or someone doesn't listen to a Nasi, right? Chas v'shalom, there are consequences. And we don't necessarily like to focus on the negative side of things. But it's important to remember that Reb Hillel said, it's about the Beis Din over here. It's about the kavod of Torah and halacha. And so, this individual saw the great koyach and the great responsibility one has to listen to what the Rav says. And I think there's a lesson we can learn for us also, that sometimes our teachers tell us something, and our parents tell us something, or a Rav says something, and we think we know better. And we could start bringing rayas and explaining that whatever this person, this Rav, this teacher, this parent told us, they don't know what they're saying. And maybe you're right. But at the end of the day, if the Rav said something, we listen to the Rav. Your teacher, your Mora, your parent said something, you could have 118 reasons to say why you are right and they're wrong. But there is a mitzvah to listen to your parents and listen to your teachers and follow what the Beis Din says. That's what we have to do. It's not about chas v'shalom, what's going to happen if you don't. No, we don't focus on that. This story, the people had to bring out a point to show the authority of the Beis Din. But for us, we have to know, a parent says something, a Rebbe says something, a Rav says something, a teacher says something, we listen with Kabbalah Soil, and later we can ask questions why and have a discussion why that decision was the way it was. On the topic of Batei Dinim, just similar story in this vein that showed how Reb Hillel operated as a Rav. There was another time where one of the Balei Din who had been called to Reb Hillel's Beis Din refused to accept and fulfill the decision and the psak din that Reb Hillel's Beis Din paskin. So in a meeting with a stubborn man who refused to listen to the psak din, Reb Hillel said, on Shabbos morning, we say in davening, Toivim ha'oros shabara lekeinu. What does that mean literally? The taich means the luminaries, the lights that Hashem created are good. Hashem formed them with wisdom and understanding, and He gave them the strength and the ability to rule within Tevel. Tevel means the world. A deeper meaning, says Reb Hillel, is that the luminaries, the light, this refers to Talmidei Chachamim, who are called the eyes of the community. They were formed with Chachma, with wisdom, and Bina, understanding, so that they would judge according to the Heilige Torah. And they were given the strength to deal with those who refused to listen to their directions. And they were granted the ability to remove the middle letter of the word Tevel, earth, and then you are left with the word Tel, which means a pile of ruins. Understanding the message all too well, this person did tshuva and accepted the court's decision, and he said he's going to listen to what the Rav says right away. Reb Hillel had a way with words. He didn't have to threaten them, he didn't have to scare them, didn't tell them you're going to be punished. This is the koyach that the Rav has. So we spoke about Reb Hillel's obviously Yisrael in spreading Yiddishkeit and Chassidishkeit. We spoke about a few stories about Reb Hillel's Shmiras Torah v'Mitzvahs, how he was uncompromising to make sure that every mitzvah was done b'hider. And now we see how Reb Hillel conducted himself as a Rav for the benefit of the community to make sure that when there was a psak din, when the Rav and the Beis Din said something needs to be followed, he made sure to go the extra mile to hold up the respect of the Beis Din, of the Rabbanos, and that his rulings are actually fulfilled.